We're going to talk about the Ascension wave that just hit the planet, and what it was a practice round. Yeah, this is getting serious, guys. We're getting these little mini event practice sessions, and I'm going to talk to you about the one that we've just had land on the planet. It's going to unfold and ripple through the collective consciousness in relays. This means it'll start with a couple of thousand people first. These are the front runners. That's you if you're watching this video. And then it ripples out into the next group and the next and the next, until everybody on the planet has undergone their interaction with this Ascension wave. We're going to have a lot of these. As we come closer to Ascension, we're going to have a lot of these energetic experiences, a lot of these energetic waves coursing through our everyday lives, and it's going to bring upheaval and Ascension symptoms and so much to deal with and to confront that was once buried, so many coping mechanisms that no longer work. We're going to talk about all of that. I want to start with giving you the visual of what this looked like, and then unpacking it into what this means for you, how this is going to look in your everyday life, and more importantly, what is it that you're meant to do? Because you're going to feel that. You're going to feel like there's something I'm meant to do now because of this. We're going to talk about that towards the end, so stay tuned. I got a lot to share with you, starting with the visual. So a lot of the time when energetic information lands with me, it lands visually, and it's just a really great way of being able to relay it to you. This is what it looked like. We're going to talk in a little bit about what this means. Let's start with what it looked like. So this energetic wave, which is a cosmic wave, that's really what Ascension is. Ascension itself is a massive burst of light that hits the planet, and as it does, it catalyzes this alchemical process in the body, where the body shifts from a third dimensional being into a fifth dimensional being. So we've got, landing on the planet right now, this wave of energy, and what it looked like was exactly that, a ripple. A ripple which didn't really have a color, didn't have a sound. So the reverberance, that's what happened on the surface, and it felt like everything got disturbed or everything got stirred up. But then, just as quickly as that wave hit, it disappeared. But where it disappeared to was into the center of the planet. There's a video that I've got on my channel called Rods of Light. It's actually two separate videos that talk about how the rods of light work. The rods of light are wherever you are, wherever a being of consciousness on planet Earth is. In proximity to them, there is at least one, but sometimes many rods of light. These rods of light create anchor points on the planet where cosmic consciousness gets grounded deep down into the core of planetary consciousness. That is where that cosmic wave goes. So it starts on the surface, and then it gets absorbed right into the core of the planet. And when it gets absorbed right into the core of the planet, everything on the surface looks normal again. But what's taking place at the core of the planet now is amplification. So this energy now tumbles and rumbles and stirs and grows and amplifies in the core of planetary consciousness. And when that happens, it's also in the core of you, because you're a microcosm of the planet. Nothing can happen at the planetary level that doesn't also get relayed into the physical level. So it's going to be for the planetary consciousness as well as the personal consciousness at the deepest core level. This energy, this cosmic event, gets absorbed and amplified. In the amplification stage, there's an unsettling feeling of looming change. There's an unsettling feeling because you know what's coming next, and what comes next in the visual once that incubation in the center, which tends, and it's not really a hard and fast rule, but it tends to be around 14 days, around 2 weeks, tends to sit in amplification, and then it bursts back up again. So it reaches capacity and cannot be contained in the core anymore. And then it moves, surges back up to the surface through the rods of light, back onto the surface, but this time it's calibrated. And the rods of light, by the way, are there, and you're stationed where you are on planet Earth to allow, to facilitate that passageway of the rod of light holding the consciousness and directing the consciousness right into the planetary core so that it gets calibrated. Because the moment it's calibrated to Earth frequency, it's now not foreign. It's now going to feel more familiar to the body. The body's going to be able to absorb it a lot easier. Now it sits back on the surface again for a second round of interaction and integration. This time, of course, it's going to be a little bit easier to bring into the body. And I want you to imagine yourself breathing it in. So in that visual, that's exactly what the front runners do. They absorb it in, they breathe that light into their body, and then they become the ripple on the surface, and that ripple hits the next person and the next and the next, and so it goes. That's what it looks like visually, okay? Now, what does it feel like? What does this mean for you? First, disturbance. And we tend to feel change as exactly that. We tend to feel change as a threat. We tend to feel change with almost a nausea or a resistance. So it could be a physical feeling for you, but it could also be an energetic feeling for you of something's wrong. I'm feeling a little bit off kilter, out of sorts. It can be that kind of a feeling. You'll know that that energy's landing though, because it feels like something's being stirred, and that can put us almost on high alert. But then a couple days pass, that generally lasts 3-4 days, 5 days max, and then you're going to feel like, oh, it was just my imagination, everything's fine now. But that's because that light has now gone into the core of the planet and simultaneously into the core of you, which is another way of saying right into the deepest level of your being. That now begins a whole new incubation process and calibration process. It's in that time that you get a little bit, or you can get a little bit antsy, a little bit anxious, a little bit expectant. Something's looming, some change is coming. Don't know what it is, don't know what to expect. It's during this time that a lot of coping mechanisms are going to fail. And the coping mechanisms specifically that I'm talking about, the first one is numbness. So anytime that you numb out, that you avoid, that you disassociate, that's not going to work for you anymore. Numbing out is going to, if that was a coping mechanism, is now going to be replaced with confrontation. Confrontation with yourself, confrontation with life, confrontation with what is. And in general, we don't like confrontation. In general, because we don't like to feel threatened. So this can be what you feel, the truth. Instead of looking just at your knee-jerk response, look at the deeper truth. The deeper truth is you are being released. You're actually being healed from a very dysfunctional nature of numbing out or moving into avoidance, moving into disassociation. None of those things are organic to you. None of those things are natural. None of those things are healing. None of those things result in your wellness and your vitality. So if somebody were to remove your numbing out, if you go into numbness from you, that would be a great gift to you. So knee-jerk response, oh, something's wrong. But bigger picture, something's actually beautiful. Something's actually being healed. And what it's going to teach you is to be with what is. One of the big lessons that I teach in my online community, we've got to do this as humans. Learn to be with what is. Instead of what you want, what you hope, what you intend to have. And it's not to say that your intentions aren't important and you shouldn't work with them. Rather, learn to just get into authenticity with what is, because we cannot shift out of something that we cannot acknowledge. We cannot move beyond where we are until we are where we are. So numbness prevents us from being where we are. If that gets taken away, what's going to happen? Yeah, the confrontation, the realness. So things are going to feel very real. Things are going to feel very authentic, can be a little bit uncomfortable, can feel a little bit confrontational. But at the same time, you're going to feel like there's a bigger picture here. And the bigger picture is, I'm learning to do life differently, because that's the truth. Now, I said to you that's one of the coping mechanisms that's not going to be working anymore. It's going to be invalidated, and that is numbness and disassociation. Remember, a lot of addictions also facilitate numbness and disassociation. So we can have flare-ups in addiction. We can have a sudden need to overcome an addiction, and overcoming the addiction is going to be supported by life. Why? Because that's exactly what this ascension wave is doing. It's saying, okay, we've got to get you out of this unnatural state of being, right? The other thing, in terms of coping mechanism that is just not going to fly anymore, not going to work anymore, is control. Oh, isn't that just the story of humanity? We control things. We like to control the narrative, control the outcome. We think. Thinking is one of the ways, and overthinking, overanalyzing is one of the ways that we try to control reality. We play scenarios out in our mind. We speak, we have dialogue, we write emails even in our mind. Why? Because we're trying to control a situation instead of, yeah, you guessed it, accept the situation, be with the situation, allow the situation. The energies of trust and surrender and allowing, these are contrasting to that energy of control. So we're therefore going to have to learn those energies of surrender. What does surrender feel like? Most of us know how to spell the word, and that's pretty much where it begins and ends. Surrender is a deep level of trust. It's a deep level of peace. It's a deep level of harmony. It's a deep level of relaxation. But we're unfamiliar. And we're so unfamiliar with surrender that we can go into almost a panicky feeling at the very thought of surrender, because surrender sounds like, oh, I'm not in control. Surrender sounds like a giving up. It's not. Surrender is what happens when you stop fighting. Surrender is not what happens when you're defeated. Surrender is what happens when you realize that life is not a battle. That in fact, you're meant to be in harmony with the universe, which is a light bigger than your own that you're being asked now to step into and actually interact with. There is so much being switched on in this ascension wave. That's just one of the many lessons that's going to come out of this. How do I allow my personal light to now start interacting with cosmic light, universal light? Here's a little visual that I'm going to share with you. It's going to be very, very supportive, very, very helpful. Imagine your soul, and your soul is the part of you that is ancient, eternal, and wise. People, I've heard this before. I've heard people use the word soul very much in the wrong context. They say things like, oh, I'm tired in my soul. My soul is broken. My soul isn't happy. No. Your soul is an infinite being of higher consciousness. Your soul is not tainted. Your soul is not broken. Your soul is not tired even. How does an infinite thing get tired? Your ego gets tired. The human self can be tired, drained, depleted, confused, etc. So be very clear that the soul is the part of you that is in constant connection with, communion with the universe itself, God consciousness itself. So imagine your soul as a golden being, because it is. Because we have a frequency of gold that at its optimal, when we are in our highest alignment, we vibrate to the color gold. We are the gold standard. We are gold frequency. So imagine, whether you see it as sparkly gold or honey gold or whatever it is, imagine, just a little visual, this golden being, and then imagine that wave, that beautiful transparent wave. It's kind of like a sound wave, but it's also a light wave, and it's cosmic consciousness itself. Imagine that passing through the golden being that is your soul, and imagine your soul breathing it in and then exhaling it out. And as your soul exhales that cosmic ripple, the cosmic ripple now is infused with your very own consciousness. So that's a lovely visual way for you to work with your higher energy, connecting to, engaging with this cosmic energy. And of course, it's taking place in your body. That's where that breath happens. I want you to really get into this feeling everything at the level of embodiment. Why? Because that's what Ascension is. For those of you that work with me in my online community, you will know we do the wiggle. Every meditation starts out that way. I say to you, wiggle into your body, really spending time with getting into the body, getting into embodiment, because we're practicing for Ascension. Every single meditation, every single energetic process that we do happens at the level of physicality. So all that we're talking about here, remember, this is happening in your body. The backdrop to all of this is it's taking place at the physical level. Yes, it's energetic work, but it's happening at the level of groundedness. So one of the things you can do to really support yourself is ground down. If you feel yourself getting headachy, dizzy, ears, anything that's sort of keeping you up in the head, that's a very, very good signal to you to ground down into the body. So simple practice, breathe the energy down. So imagine that you've got a whole surplus of energy stuck around the head, and that through your breath, you're drawing it down. And do exactly as I did, in through the nose, out through the mouth. That's a really nice way of shifting the energy. Guided meditation is also going to be very, very supportive to you as you learn to shift and ground the energy down into the body. You're welcome to join my online community where I'm going to support you in doing this, but that's what you've got to do. These are your next steps. This is how you work with this practice round of the event. And aren't you excited that you get to do this? Aren't you enthralled? Like, Ascension could be 10 minutes away, could be 10 years away. It just doesn't matter. The point is, you're in preparation mode now. A lot of people are going to look at this through the tainted lens of, oh, my Ascension symptoms are through the wazoo and I can't cope. If you experience a lot of heart energy, and what I mean by heart energy is that little bit of unsettledness, emotional level, physical level, can be palpitations, can be anxiety. If you experience anything at the heart level, what I want you to do is the same. Use your breath to breathe the energy down into your body. That's going to really ground you, stabilize your energy by breathing down as if you're breathing down into your feet. And then imagine that through your feet, you've got roots that anchor you into the core of the planet. Keep breathing down into those roots. And when you breathe up from the planetary consciousness itself into your body. Now, once that energy reaches the surface, remember, it has been calibrated down into the core. First, we get the disturbance, then it's calibrated in the core, amplified in the core, and released for the secondary round. But this time, it's released from the inside of you. So what's going to happen is it's going to make you feel like life is out of my control. Everyone's going to get confronted with that through their own very unique circumstances. You're going to come up with a feeling of, I'm not in charge, I'm not in control. And when that happens, go, yes, thank you, universe, for teaching me. Thank you, me, for receiving the lesson. I'm not in control. Instead, I'm in trust. In trust of what? In trust of who? My own light. My own light that is lit by divinity itself. My own light that is guided by divinity itself. And the light that my light is connected to, which is God itself. God consciousness, the supreme creator of all that is. No, I'm not in control. I'm in trust. I'm in surrender. And every single step of the way, your soul is orientating you to reach higher and higher. So now listen to your intuition. If ever there was a time to listen to your intuition, this is it. But I know there's a question that a lot of you ask me, and that is, how do I know? How do I know if I'm listening to my inner rambling, my own chatterbox, or my intuition? I'm going to answer the question for you because it's really important that you know the distinction right now. Here I am asking you, get into that gut feel place and live from the gut feel place. How do you know when you're there? Okay. When your chatterbox brain rambles, when the ego speaks, it speaks with a lot of words. When your intuition speaks, it speaks with no words. It speaks with simplicity. It speaks with a sense, a feeling. That's why people say things like, I sense this about you, or I sense this is coming, or I feel this. Because what you're doing is you're translating the feeling that arrives first into words, but it doesn't arrive as words. Intuition is not something that occurs in the brain. A lot of people go, I'm listening for my inner voice, as if you're going to hear it with your ears. It's not audible. So this is why it's so important to learn to engage with yourself and with life at the energetic level of consciousness where life occurs. Life is a frequency, life is a feeling, and you've got to now start interacting with and speaking that language. But do you know what? That's your primary language. The language that you speak today, let's just say it's English, like my primary language. If that's your primary language, it's still your secondary language. It's secondary because we were all born fluent in the language of energy. That's the first language we spoke. And then the words started to override the feelings. The words started to push down and even invalidate all of the energetic experiences that we were actually here to have and to engage in and participate with. That was the programming of the false matrix. Goody gumdrops, we all did it. We all passed with flying colors. Congratulations, you got disconnected. You got disassociated from your true self. Now, can we get reassociated? Yes. Can we get reconnected? Yes. Do you know why? Because you were never truly separate. You only had the illusion of separation. Thanks so much for listening and for sharing this with your friends who really need it. So go ahead and share this message with them from my heart all the way into yours. Lots of love, everyone. Bye-bye for now.